It used to take 3 seconds. Bam.
Awesome. Hey, y'all. Welcome to episode 22 of the Fun and Facts Show. I am Erica Shante, and I am here today with my awesome friend. What's your name again?
My name is Hector Talks.
Awesome. You can find both of us on all your social media sites under the same names, Erica Shante, Hector Talks with 2 R's. All right. And again, this is episode 22 of the Fun and Facts Show. And I am just a mom who has aspirations and dreams of being a political commentator. All right. I promise you, I'm going to get me my check from MS Now. All right. And friend, you are?
I am Hector Talks. Also have aspirations of being a political commentator for common sense policies that benefit the U.S. and the world.
Awesome. All right. And again, don't you forget the name. This is the Fun and Facts Show. So while you are listening, all right, make sure you got your pen and paper to take notes. All right. And, let's just do all of the good things while we are here today during the episode 22 of the Fun and Facts Show, where I'm the fun and
I am the facts.
Awesome. Let's get it started. Okay. So you want to go first?
Yep.
Bet.
Welcome in, guys. I have a lot. I have a lot of stuff. I'm not gonna lie. I have a lot of stuff. And apologies if I seem thrown off because I kind of got overwhelmed with all the stuff that I was compiling because there quite literally is so damn much. The first thing I want to start off is in regards to the, I guess, immediate flag, which is Iran. We went into this war, or we started this war on February 28th of this year under the guise of protecting America from nuclear extinction. And we did it under the guise of them being weeks, if not days away from a nuclear bomb. And yet for some reason, we are still doing just fine. The administration is walking back what they've said about complete obliteration of the nuclear capabilities versus we did some of it versus, well, there's more, so on and so forth. And we quite literally can't get a straight answer from them. The clearest thing they have been in regards to their actions in the Middle East is on the fact that we did all of it for nothing. And what I mean by that is not only the recent reports that we've had of the deal presented to Iranians about basically JCPOA standards, but also them openly saying that we want to bring it back to where it was before the war started. Quite literally, Marco Rubio's words himself, and I do want to play that clip for you guys right here. Let me move it around and get it to where it's sized for you guys.
They're definitely gonna say that Trump is a great negotiator.
Oh, the master negotiator, art of the deal, right? He's exceptional at making those deals. Hence why we're still in a, so far 2-month war.
Yeah, there you go.
I also want to say, if you want to know the truth about this administration, just listen to them. They don't really hide a lot. I'm not gonna lie.
That's true.
They don't.
That's sort of kind of.
Like they do.
There's a balance.
I also feel like there's a large portion of just the average American just doesn't look so deeply into things. So it's not so much that they hide it. It's just so much they won't put it out in the open. Certain things that they do very secret and private. And then we do the digging. And then the rest is just, y'all don't read. But let me go ahead and start this over. And this is what this man said with his full chest. Oh, yeah. On the cheap side, I have to get my audio situated. Here we go. What?
As President Trump has said, and the facts clearly bear out, the United States of America holds all the cards. There is no scenario here in which if they decide to join a ladder of escalation, they wind up getting the last say. But our preference is for these straits to be opened to the way they're supposed to be opened, back to the way it was. Anyone can use it, no mines in the water, nobody paying tolls. That's what we have to get back to, and that's the goal here. As President Trump...
So riddle me this.
Batman. Yes. Most definitely was. Well, yeah, I mean that, but then also another thing is that again, ineptitude. They don't think things through. I'm going to be stuck on this for a very long time at the fact that he just did not consider that the Strait of Hormuz would be closed, and it sits to the south of Iran. And how would they not can close it? It'd be the best strategic thing for them to do is to have control basically of the global oil market. I don't know why he didn't think that through, but here we are, and we're paying for it. We're paying for it. But hey, Trump's the best negotiator. He knows what he's doing, right? Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's my fault. Let's do this here. I'm gonna play it and put the sound back on. And here's the clip, guys.
Also, even the economic front, gas prices are up, inflation's up, Americans having some financial hardships across the country. That being said, is right now the right time for Congress to be prioritizing $1 billion for security apparatus at the White House, including $220 million for the East Wing ballroom, given the fact that President Trump had said it would be paid for by private donation?
Yeah, look, I think that's a gross misstatement of what's going on here.
Can you turn it up?
In the bill, and by the way, it's in a draft form right now, as you know, the second reconciliation bill. Sadly, we have to fund immigration enforcement and border on our own as a Republican Party, because remember, Democrats want to give $0 to it. The Secret Service put in an urgent request for additional security measures. It's not for the ballroom, it's for security measures. Now, we don't know what the final bill is going to be that we get. They got to go through 3 more steps. They're going through the bird bath, the parliamentarian review of the bill. They've got to go through 2 markups in some committees and then ultimately action on the House floor. So we're not going to prejudge that product. We're waiting for it to come from the Senate. But I will say this, that in one section of the bill, it addresses security measures. It's very specifically defined on what those security requests are from the Secret Service. And I will say this, for many of you that were in the ballroom just a few weeks ago and sat through and observed the 3rd failed assassination attempt of a president just in a short number of years here, there's an urgent need for increased security measures. I mean, that is an objective fact, and it should be something that's bipartisan. The ballroom is totally privately funded. The president has dedicated like $400 million for that project, and by the way, it's going to be a donation to the country. You're aware the ballroom will be there long after he leaves, and he'll only get a few months of its use. So he's doing it for the country, but it's what's beneath the ballroom that is, in my view, far more important. And we've needed some of these security measures for a long time, and that's what this is all about. So there's a false narrative out there about it. I'm not going to prejudge the product we get from the Senate, but I certainly understand what the Secret Service's requests are. They have an almost impossible job right now, and they need that extra funding. Yes, sir.
Just to build off that question.
So, first and foremost, what's under the ballroom that didn't need to exist is irrelevant to the American people who's going to have to pay for it with an additional $1 billion from our taxes. We don't care. We really don't care. So I found that to be a moot point, because initially this was all under the guise of totally being private funded, which made no difference as far as I'm concerned, because if you were able to collect about $400 billion, according to Mike Johnson, to throw into a ballroom, I think you could have also done that for several other programs and things that could have helped the American people. And we're still prioritizing appearances and security measures that's put into a wing that didn't have to exist versus, I don't know, if you wanted to cement the security of the overall White House that we currently already have. I don't know, I just feel like that's a terrible response. Not to mention, he was asked about gas prices being up. He was asked about inflation being up. Specifically, Americans are having financial hardship. Is now the right time for Congress to be prioritizing $1 billion for security at the White House and a ballroom Trump said would be paid for privately? He said that was a gross mischaracterization of what's occurring.
That's not a gross mischaracterization. That's literally what's happening.
We are on our way
That's what's happening.
to passing the average of the peak of the Biden administration, which, if I'm not mistaken, was $4.70. Inflation is up 3.8%, quite literally the highest that it's been for almost the entire year of 2024, when Biden was able to get it down from those peak 2022 and then 2023 levels. You can't afford things. That's not a gross mischaracterization. That is reality.
No, it's not.
And these are this coming from the same people that said that Biden was playing us during his administration, when he was saying that the economy was doing well, despite people not being able to afford things, even though per some metrics it was. And now they're eating this. They're eating this up. Doesn't make any sense.
But to go along with what we're talking about now, some news that just came to me. It was breaking news a little bit earlier today. Well, actually yesterday. But the $10 billion lawsuit that Trump and his two sons filed, well, Eric and Don Jr. filed against the IRS for releasing the tax returns, is that the DOJ is actually considering a settlement. And as we all know, with anything that comes about this in regards to a settlement, or even if the IRS were to be found liable, it will have to be signed off by Trump himself. And they're looking to settle for $10 million. And one of the provisions of the settlement, if they do it, is that any audits into Trump himself and his family and their businesses have to cease. They have to stop. This is being reported by the New York Times. So that's what we have going on there. So we will have to see what's going to happen here. I think it's going to be a settlement of $10 million if they agree to it, along with the terms. And that's our money. We would be paying the president of the United States of America $10 million. I want us to understand what's happening here. I know I've been saying that so much lately, but this is outrageous. This is a first in U.S. history, yo. He's the president of first, is what he is. Right? The first convicted felon to be a president. All right? Like the first president, to have been found civilly liable of sexual abuse. You know what I mean? First president to be told that he can't do business within a state. Like, bruh.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Like you go to a certain state, you can't do nothing there. As a businessman, as a real estate investor, yikes.
Yeah. And so this is where we're at with that one. I want to read this one here. This right here, for this, it says, Mr. Trump and his family have repeatedly disregarded Washington's ethical guardrails aimed at preventing government officials from profiting from public office, including by pushing for more than $200 million in a separate administrative case with the Justice Department. But a settlement payment, even a fraction of the size of Mr. Trump's requested $10 billion, could be much larger than his other attempts at private gain, potentially doubling his net worth. So what they're saying is that if they don't take the settlement and they go for the $10 billion, right? If he wins the $10 billion, they'll be effectively doubling his net worth. $10 billion? Really? I think the American public could use that $10 billion. All right. Considering that's actually going to lead into the next story that we have here. What's going on is that we have people who can't afford to buy food, is what we have. NBC News did a report about 2 days ago on hungry families throughout the United States of America. Specifically, they had a focus on Arizona, where since the big unattractive bill, keeping it cute, was put into place in July of last year, July 4th to be exact, 47% of the people within the state of Arizona have lost access to their SNAP benefits. Yeah, you heard that right. 47% of the people have lost access to their SNAP benefits. And the state of Arizona is making it so extremely difficult for people to actually get benefits. Even people that should qualify are being denied. Definitely going to talk more about that in just a moment. But it's not just Arizona that is experiencing this, is also other states. What we have going on is we're seeing a massive drop in those who are eligible for benefits, and also benefits being denied renewal. All right, I want to go ahead and talk about that because here we go. Boom. All right. Because what we have here is we have different states according to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, so CBPP, all right, letting us know that like in Texas, what they've seen is a drop of, let me make sure I have that right number for you guys. So in Texas, what they've seen is a participation greater than 10% down. And also in states like Virginia, participation has dropped by like 12%. Again, as mentioned, Arizona has seen the largest drop by 47%. And Georgia has seen it drop by 24%. So Georgia's kind of like in second place here. And the reason why they are putting like kicking people off and then also being very strict with the requirements is because of the payment error rate. The payment error rate has always been a thing, but it isn't something that has been highly enforced. The Trump administration has dropped it down to 6%. And so with the payment error rate, a state like Arizona that in fiscal year of 2024 was at about 8%, they're estimating that in 2025, fiscal year 2025, which we're in now, their payment error rate would be at about 10% if it were to continue as it was. That's why they're dropping people, not so basically doing non-renewals and also being very strict with accepting people. And the payment error rate basically means that if your state goes above the 6% that the government has settled, the state is going to have to pay the gap. And what that means is a cost share. So typically when it comes to SNAP benefits, it's a fully federally funded program. All right, the state may take care of like administrative costs, but all of the benefit that people get is paid for by the federal government. So what has happened here is that states are trying to mitigate their financial responsibility. So like in Arizona, as this NBC article reported, a mom of an autistic child, a child who lives with autism, she was denied coverage. And they told her that she needed to get a notarized letter from her father stating that the Zelle transaction that he sent her as a birthday gift is simply that, a birthday gift and not a recurring transaction. That's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. Additionally, another thing is that there was a woman who was profiled in the story here. Again, you can find it at NBCnews.com, where she used to work for DES, which is the Department of Economic Security here in Arizona. And she used to work there and she knows what to do. You know what I mean? She knows the process because she worked there, but she was still denied. She thinks that it was just a systems error, so she is appealing it. But this is a woman who used to rent a home with her child, and they are now living in a room that she is renting out of an apartment. So basically, it's someone who's renting a 2-bedroom apartment who is subletting to her a room there for her and her son. And she is currently unemployed, but they're telling her that she does not qualify for benefits. That makes no sense whatsoever. And to like bring this full circle, it's $187 billion in funding cuts to the SNAP program that the Trump administration has put into place. The thing about the SNAP program, I know people think that folks are just out there buying candy bars and soda pop and whatnot, but that's not the case. People need this money, all right, in order to buy foods that keep them alive. All right. Certain foods you can't eat if you have a liver condition or if you have kidney disease. Like if you have kidney disease, you can't eat processed food. All right. Also, another thing with kidney disease, you got to stay away from foods that are high in potassium. All right, because that can mess up your kidney disease. I know about that because my mom lives with kidney disease, right? And so also, if you have heart disease, diabetes, so on and so forth, gluten allergies, so many different things, they use this benefit to make sure that they stay alive and they stay healthy. Without it, what ends up happening is that these same people become they become basically people who end up in the medical system who can't afford to pay for the medical expenses that they incur. We know that the number one reason for bankruptcy in the United States of America, of course, is medical debt. And the Trump administration overturned a Biden executive order that made it so that collections companies could not go after you for $500 or less in medical expenses. When those rack up, the people start calling. All right. It's a vicious cycle for people. And that's what the Trump administration is putting people into. And I'm going to say it. I'm hoping that this is something that can be undone come the midterms. We'll just have to see what happens here. But this is disheartening, to say the least. And this is just the tip of the iceberg.
You said $187 billion was the total that was cut? For
$187 billion from the SNAP program over 10 years. Mm-hmm.
Yikes. That's what we'll be paying. Well, you said 160 something, 187 billion specifically. That is what we are going to have to be borrowing every month for this year, just to keep up with our budget. And that's going to add 2 trillion by the end of it to the national debt. By this time, let's go 12 months into 2027, we'll be $41 trillion in debt. Meanwhile, as Mike Johnson kind of talked about in the clip that they just put forward into the House and then moving on to the Senate, they've proposed $1.5 trillion for the defense budget. Additional $500 billion for war. $500 billion for war. And it seems like those SNAP cuts haven't been making up for it.
But we don't have enough money to feed the poor, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Nope. And the crazy thing is that it's not even just like the poor, as people like to think. All right, like the majority of people who receive SNAP benefits work. They work. Over 60% of the people in the state of Arizona who receive SNAP benefits are full-time employees. I want to be like, we have to know that our full-time employees, over 60%. But yet what we say is that is lazy people. It's people who don't want to work. No, that's not the case. That's simply just not the case. It's just not. I need people to understand, like, rent is not cheap. Like, there's people out here who are working who are paying a $2,000 a month rent. And y'all would say, go find something cheaper. I'm sorry, darling. In the Phoenix metro area, there is nothing cheaper. Unless you want to live somewhere where your car would be broken into every single night, or you would have people that, unfortunately are going to be up to no good, to put it kindly. No, there isn't anything cheaper, especially when you have to make sure that you're protecting your children. God, no. Mm-mm.
Before we get into the next story, we're about the 30-minute mark, so I want to take this moment to do a PSA. Welcome in, everyone. Welcome in on both platforms to the Fun and Fact Show. Once again, this is episode 22, as we so named it, Reconstruction, and Trump doesn't care about your finances. And we are getting into the finances part of the show. I'm going to need you guys to do a couple things while you are here. First and foremost, those of you over on the TikTok side, please double tap the screen. Make sure you're getting the likes up. We want to end these streams with very healthy amounts of engagement to show the algorithm that this news is very important, that we want to get it out to as many people as possible. You can also ensure you can do that by sharing out the live with your friends and family. Make sure that you're reposting it, adding it to your story if that option is available to you. Of course, if you're new to the platform, consider hitting that follow button and send your daily heartbeat, become a fan club member. Knock out the respective goals that we have on the TikTok app. But then, of course, the best ways to support those of you who want to see this keep going, those of you who want to put your money where your mouth is and support independent media, especially in the rise of fake news and propagandists. I can go on and on about Just Monica's lives that I was watching earlier, and she was playing a video where Nick Shirley went to Cuba. And Nick Shirley went to Cuba and lied his way through trying to convince the people over there that the USA wants exactly what they have and that communism is bad. What's super funny about the clip, I'm rambling now, every single person that he spoke to in Cuba when he said, US people want this, what do you have to say about communism? They all said it's not communism. And he had the balls to put that in his video. It was super funny. Anyways, super important that you listen to content creators that try to tell you the full and wholehearted truth. And that's what Eric and I try to do every single day. And if you want to support that mission, you can do so with the links in the bio, whether it's following us on all the other social media platforms, donating directly to the links in the bio, which we have Cash App, PayPal, Zelle, Venmo, so on and so forth. Getting yourself some merchandise off our respective merch shops. Erica's ericeffect.com and mine is hectorshops.com with 2 R's. Make sure we are doing all of the things. Those of you on the tube side, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, turn on notification bells on your way in or on your way out, and you may send a super chat or a super sticker.
Yeah. So speaking of finance, we have a new Fed chair. His name is Kevin Warsh. All right. He's 56 years old. He used to serve as on the board of governors during the recession, the Great Recession. So from 2006 to 2011 is when he served. And he was a part basically of like that team that helped get us out of the recession, where they took the interest rates and they were able to lower them. That's what he pushed for then. He's Trump's guy. He is definitely Trump's guy. What I want to do is I'm going to play a video from his confirmation hearing about 3 weeks ago. So it did happen in like early April. And Jerome Powell's term is actually ending this month. If we weren't aware, his term is ending this month. And Warsh has been confirmed for just yesterday to a 14-year term as the Fed chair. And people have some concerns about him considering his closeness to Donald Trump. And, you know, Donald Trump does actually tell the truth at times. I'm not holding y'all. He really does. You just have to listen to him. So I agree with Hector. You know, they can be transparent when they want to be. But you know what? I'm going to say this about Trump. When it comes to some things, he might tell you a joke, but he won't tell you a lie. I'm just saying. All right. So I want you to listen to Senator Ruben Gallego out of Arizona. During Warsh's confirmation hearing, he was questioning him about lowering interest rates, and this is how it went.
19 interview with Bloomberg, you said monetary policy is important not for decision it makes, but for reasons it gives for the explanations. Mr. Warsh, the Federal Open Market Committees or that the Fed sets U.S. monetary policy through interest rate decisions at those meetings, do you commit to maintaining the current practice of holding a meeting at least once every 8 weeks, yes or no?
Senator, by statute, as we talked about in your office, I believe the statute requires a minimum of 4 meetings, but 4 is not enough. So having more meetings than that is appropriate, but I've not even begun to look at the meeting schedules for 2027 and beyond, of course, subject to confirmation.
Okay. So then do you commit to holding a press conference at least on the day of the FOMC meetings?
Senator, right now press conferences are held periodically. If you ask me my true personal opinion, right now Fed chairs and other central bankers around the FOMC, they speak quite frequently. There is no lack of transparency. But I would say this, I think truth-seeking is more important than repetition. And if one has a press conference, one wants to deliver some important news.
Perfect. So and to follow up on that, then, would you commit to taking questions at those press conferences?
If a press conference were held, I think it would be incumbent to hear what the reporters of the day had in mind.
Thank you. I'm glad, you know, our personal meeting regarding this was very enlightening. Earlier today, you said to Senator Kennedy that President Trump never demanded you to cut interest rates in your job interview. Is that your sworn testimony?
That is, Senator.
Okay. Well, someone here is lying then, because it's either you or President Trump. Because in an interview with the Wall Street Journal of December 12th, President Trump confirmed that he pressed you on your commitment to support interest rates cuts. And I quote, during a 45-minute meeting with Warsh on Wednesday at the White House, the president pressed Warsh on whether he could trust him to support interest rate cuts if he were chosen to lead the central bank. According to people familiar with the meeting, Trump in the general interview confirmed that, repeating, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to enter for the record the Wall Street Journal article, December 12th. Trump says he's leaning towards Warsh or has it to lead the Fed. So, you know, this brings up an issue of credibility at this point. who's lying here? Is it you or the president? Because the president confirmed that he did ask you to cut interest rates.
Senator, there's of course a third alternative. You cite a couple of reporters for a leading financial newspaper. I recall reading that story at the time.
Did you issue a correction?
I think those reporters either need better sources or better journalist standards.
Did you ask for a correction?
There are things in the newspaper, Senator, I see all the time that don't strike my ear as correct.
So it is, in your opinion, that the president then is lying when he said he did not ask you?
I can only repeat to you, Senator, what I said to several of your colleagues.
So you did not. You right now, under sworn testimony, are saying just to right now that the president of the United States in that job interview did not ask you to cut interest rates.
The president never asked me to commit to interest rate cuts at any particular meeting over the period of my tenure at the Fed. He didn't ask for it. He didn't demand it. He didn't require it, and nor would I have ever done so.
So if these reporters come back and say, do another follow-up on this and they confirm what they heard, what will your response be?
Well, my response would be what I suggested to you a few moments ago. As I read that story in real time, I remember thinking they either need better journalistic standards or better sources.
So, here's my problem, Mr. Chair and colleagues. And Mr. Walsh, I think you're incredibly qualified. A lot of us are actually worried about the integrity of the Federal Reserve. We're worried about what this means for the economic markets, and we're worried about what this means for inflation. We're worried about your independence, and now we're hearing direct contradictions whether or not you were directly asked by the president to cut interest rates, and you're saying no, and he's saying yes. And I think for a lot of us, there's a question now of credibility. And I think there's a real reason why many of us are not voting no. As a matter of fact, until you verbally spoke to Mr. Kennedy and answered his question that he did not the president did not ask you to cut interest rates, this was not even going to be brought up. So there's definitely right now a true question about who is lying here. It's either you or it's the president.
Good afternoon, Mr. Walsh.
So that actually kind of leads you to the next part, though. Like, for real, I kid you not. So, like, the next part of this, though, Hector, what were you gonna say? Go ahead.
I was going to say, I actually do believe him, or at least the way he worded it specifically. I do believe Donald Trump never asked him to commit to raising any interest rates. But I think we've seen quite literally every single day for months now, particularly with his attacks with Jerome Powell, is that he said, cut the rates, cut the rates, cut the rates. Economy's great, cut the rates. My appointee's going to cut the rates. He just never mentioned him by name. So nice try.
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? So here's the deal, right? So back in, as Ruben Gallego mentioned in the thing, a Wall Street Journal reporter, they had an interview in December where Trump mentioned getting agreements from Walsh to cut the interest rates, right? And then in January at a black tie dinner affair, right, where they were doing like a roast style thing, Donald Trump actually made the joke that if Walsh didn't cut interest rates, then he'd sue him, right? But when asked about it when he was asked about it later, Trump said that it's a roast. He said he didn't extract any commitments from Walsh for his nomination, and he said, "I could have done that." I'm sorry, I want to do this one like Trump. I haven't done a Trump impression in a long time, so I think everyone listening is going to appreciate this. I could have done it, I guess, if I wanted, but I didn't. That got bad. I gotta start over. Jeez. Okay. My Trump impersonation I gotta practice. I don't know. I think my voice got tight. Gotta loosen the voice a little bit. Anywho, Trump did say I could have done that, I guess, if I wanted, but I didn't. And again, Walsh, as you saw, stood 10 toes down and said at his confirmation hearing that the president never once asked me to commit to any particular interest rate decisions. And he said, nor would I agree to do so if he had. So we'll see. And Walsh is qualified. He's a professor of economics. He served on as a governor before. He knows how to use words, and he also knows how to not come across as combative as Hegseth, Bondi, and Noem and Patel have in their Senate hearings previously. But I mean, he's good. he's good, guys. I'm just going to let you know that, right? But the thing about him is that he is not a fan of quantitative easing. During the 2008 financial crises and also the COVID-19 pandemic, the Fed used quantitative easing. And what that is basically the central bank buying government debt, which allowed the Fed to cut interest rates, right? And because we have like higher inflation going on and we see higher prices, all right, the thing is that it's not looking good for them to cut interest rates because we don't have the economic conditions to actually do so. Because when you cut interest rates, what it does is it promotes more spending, more borrowing, more spending, which of course raises price. Because the demand for goods and services becomes higher, the supply becomes lower, all right? And we get inflation. What they're trying to do is quell inflation, and the way that they do that is with quantitative easing. Warsh is not a fan of that. All right. So again, we don't have the economic conditions in order for that to happen. So it kind of leaves him with no choice but to raise interest rates, right? Keep them the same or raise them. Donald Trump doesn't want that. Donald Trump wants interest rates lower. All right. I'm not sure if many people are aware, but Hector, did you know that Trump said that he wants the interest rate to be at 1% or lower?
Yep. Heard it.
1% of lower. All right. So basically, here's the deal, right? Again, pretty much as like prices continue to rise and the prices at the pump continue to climb, he's not really going to have any choice but to raise the rate, which is going to piss off Trump. All right. So we're just going to have to, this is another thing that we can all have an opinion about, but really we're going to have to wait to see how it plays out. Is Warsh going to show loyalty to the country or to one man's goal of making himself as much money as possible while president? We shall see. Okay, so
Very much so. And let's look over some of those numbers specifically, because we have it seasonally adjusted, and then I also have the charts for it being year over year. As always, I have this source posted in the Discord section, the news channel specifically. You can go to read it yourself. And I'm going to put it up on the screen for y'all because, oh boy, I really want to hyper focus on the year over year part, because that's what the Trump administration cares about, right? When they're touting around the numbers that they did last year, when it comes to the encounter rates at the southern Mexico border, when it comes to gas prices, so on and so forth. Despite many of those things being on a downward trend from the Biden administration, they easily came up and seized those numbers as being compliments of themselves. So let's see what it's looking like now. CPI inflation blows past the Fed rates as core services, gasoline, electricity, and food spike. Fed's real rates are now negative. This is all per the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and this is the interesting part. The Bureau of Labor Statistics finally corrected part of the CPI distortions in September, October, and November. So this is the reason why we're able, what happened to my thing? Why we're able to obtain the numbers that we have now. Because of all the playing around that they did last year with the firing of the original commissioner, Erica, what's her name? They fucked up.
yeah, I just call her Erica M because I can't pronounce her last name. But can you make the font on that bigger? Blurry.
Let me see. I'll try to. That
I
much
can't
is
see with my
as-
good pupil.
That should do it. That should do it. All right, right there. I'm going to go over a couple of the charts here because it goes.
Can we take a sidebar really quick? You are such an old man. I said make the font bigger and you can make the window bigger. No.
I can't make
go
the font
into
bigger.
Yes, you
What
can.
could
Go
be a
into your
different thing.
Safari and make your font.
See, I made it bigger. Can you not read it?
You know I can't read it. You go ahead and do it.
Let me find the settings, bro. Let me find the settings. I got to be accommodating.
Just command plus sign. You're on Mac. Command plus sign.
No shortcuts and shit. Command plus sign.
Yes, sir.
Hold on, I'm not on the right screen. Nah, I didn't do none.
Control plus sign. There we go.
Okay. All right, I gotta adjust it now a little bit more. Hold on, let me shrink. and make that smaller. Y'all can read that?
I can read the headline now. And it's not like blurry. We're good. Yay, I can see. And I do have my contacts on. I'm just saying.
Okay, perfect. Oh, now it's all. I hate this. I hate this so much. Okay. The gasoline price spike hit CPI inflation for the second month, but electricity prices also spiked. Core services inflation spiked. It's the biggie, accounting for over 60% of CPI, and food prices jumped. So it's a mess, and even if the Fed wants to look through the impact of the gasoline price spike, it's going to smack into surging core services inflation, accelerating food inflation, and surging electricity inflation driven by the AI bubble. The all items CPI spiked seasonally adjusted from 0.64% in April from March, or by 8% annualized, on top of the majestic spike in the prior month, which is the blue line in the chart I'm about to show y'all. Not seasonally adjusted, it was even worse, which is 0.85% or 10.7% plus 10.7% annualized. Year over year, the all item CPI jumped from 3.81%, the worst inflation reading since April 2023, according to the BLS. And that's where all these charts are coming from. So this one is going to be for overall all item CPI. And that's where we're going to see that month's just crazy amount, which is 3.81%. This is where it hit that spike right here. And then we've been going upward in 2026. We can scroll down to the negative real rates. That is doing god awful. Core services for CPI year over year. These are the numbers that we're looking at, accelerated to 3.3%. If we scroll down a little bit more, this is year over year, month to month annualized. The core CPI, which excludes the spike in energy prices and food prices, jumped by 0.38% in April from March, or 4.6% annualized. Once you take that out, that's where you lose the 60%, but the numbers still aren't looking good because that's the worst increase since January 2025. And this is the numbers for that. You scroll down a bit more. This is the rent of primary residence change. We've seen that 3.3%. And this has been the biggest increase since December. CPI for rent of primary residence weighs 7.7% in the all item CPI. So your rent's gone up, which I thought it would go down because we're getting rid of all the undocumented migrants who are taking up the homes. We can go to the owner's equivalent rent change, also not looking good. CPI for OER weighs 25.9% in the all item CPI. Combined rent and OER weigh 33.6% of the all items. That's that number there. Airline fares, also not looking great. The CPI for airline fares spiked by 2.8% in April from March, not annualized. The second spike like this in a row. Year over year, it spiked 20.7%. And this is the charts for airline fares. Energy inflation. That mostly boils down to gas, electricity. That's what that's solidifying here. Year over year, the overall for energy and gas, 28%. 28%. And this is going to be the chart seasonally adjusted. Gasoline of all types had a 3.6% on the all item CPI. And we're almost done here. And then we can go to electricity. We went over that specifically. This is counting since January of 2020, which is 44%. I don't know why. But the year over year, we went over those numbers, which is going to be 6.1%. And then CPI food at home year over year, 2.9%. That's the worst since August 2023 as we went over. Durable goods. This is what we're looking at. Are we great yet?
No.
And that is the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
No.
That is Trump's appointees over said boards.
But that's even with them eliminating different types of commodities and indexes from the PCI. Not PCI, PPI, right? Fudgesicles, right? We are not well.
No.
At all.
Not in the slightest.
Okay. So, I don't like the idea of short-term pain for long-term gain. I don't like that. Like, I like it in the idea, like, okay, I'm going to exercise, daily, so I can, have a firmer butt or like a ab or something like that. You know what I mean? I like the idea of like getting my hair braided. You know what I mean? It might take 5 hours, but it's worth it. I don't like it when the pain is in my wallet. You know what I mean? So no. And then also with them removing categories and whatnot, I don't think that that's fair to the American people. It gives them the ability to actually fudge the numbers.
Now imagine in the midst of all these rising costs, in the middle of inflation going up very quickly in a short amount of time, because we're still in the middle of a $2 billion a day war. Imagine this appointee, would you say his name something Walsh?
Yeah, Kevin Warsh.
Kevin Warsh, excuse me. It's Kevin Warsh going, no, the economy's fine. Once we get this thing done, trust the plan. Remember that? Trust the plan. Imagine us trusting the plan, reducing the interest rates, and then inflating the situation even more.
That part.
Yikes.
Oh, yikes. Yikes. I don't know. Oh gosh, Lee, geez. I'm trying to think about how we can go from like how they're going to be able to stabilize all of this, and I don't see how they're going to be able to do it. They need to get out the war, but other than like that could help, of course.
I think they're going to play around. That's what I think we're going to see. Well, we can trust the other board members to have some actual reason in their decisions, but I think they're going to do a thing where, in order not to jolt the people, especially before some of the last primaries that we have in the individual states, they're going to take their own sweet time, and then they're going to make it worse. And then we can see an aggressive interest rate hike, and then everyone's going to be pissy.
Well, we don't. The thing is that they need to raise the interest rate, though.
Absolutely.
They do. To bring down this darn going inflation, because it's only going to continue to get higher. And that is concerning. And now with Trump not being able to do his whole tariff thing, right? Because he was struck down by the Supreme Court with IEEPA, and then Section 122 tariffs being struck down with the International Trade Court. And of course, they're going to appeal to the Supreme Court. But I don't foresee how they're going to basically get the revenue to do this. And I don't foresee how we are going to be able to continue to spend the way in which we are. Like, the national debt is almost at what? Like 40, almost at 40 trillion. It's at 39 something right now.
It's 38.91.
Geez Louise. And you also mentioned the $2 trillion being added to the deficit in just this year.
Mm-hmm. We have to borrow
because of borrowing?
$187 billion a month to maintain our current services.
My gosh. Good grief. I don't know. Sometimes you got to let go and let God. And we'll just have to see what happens. And we're just going to have to, go from there. I sound like a Trump supporter today, Hector. We're just going to have to wait and see, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. So. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. Give it time. It's only been a year. Yeah. That's the whole point. Yeah. It's only been a year, and it's gotten this bad, especially compared to what he inherited. At least we can say with his first term, it was really like 2 years. The first 2 years was good, 2017 into end of 2018, we really saw some stuff screw up. But, we had good rates, we had low gas, blah, blah, blah. And then now, look what happened. This next clip I have here is really just a nitpick of mine that I have. I often get complaints when it comes to renewable energy. I get a lot of people all my life for some reason complain about renewable energy, specifically solar. One of the arguments that they use is say, oh, well, what we use to make the solar panels basically negates the efforts that we make to reduce less carbon, all that stuff, which is not entirely true. Well, it takes a lot. The long-term investment is still overall better. And it does, for like batteries and whatnot, require electricity. Yes, but it's still a cleaner source. It's still a better source, especially if you're in the great sunshine, hot ass state of Texas, such as me. And I sold solar panels for a little bit, and you get a ton of people that consistently complain that the energy incentives that the Biden administration gave to individuals who invested in solar, electric vehicles, so on and so forth, were a monumental waste of money, which is not true at all. But this is one of the reasons why we can't seem to get people to understand the importance of renewable energy, is because they say stupid shit like this. And let me put this up on the clip.
Let's see.
And get that playing there. Oh, now it's splitting the audio. Okay. You shouldn't have dual audio now, YouTube. And there we go.
These projects you're describing in Nevada have one thing in common. When the sun goes down, they produce zero electricity.
And I request unanimous consent to enter into the record this amazing new technology that apparently the Secretary is unaware of. It's a battery. China's figured it out.
So this is something that I got oftentimes when I was out canvassing and I was talking to people, and they said, well, what happens when the sun goes down? Because I guess everyone thinks that we are 20 years in the past where, yeah, you just have to go without power at nighttime. They legitimately believe this. So guys, just in case anyone genuinely did not know this, what we typically sell, what we did used to sell, and we still sell, excuse me, I don't sell solar panels anymore. We used to sell a battery, right? The solar panels in and of itself is not enough. It comes with a battery package, and you can get different sizes based off of how big your house was and how much energy that you average. And usually we'd help walk you through that with your electricity bill. You'd give it to us. We'd look at your averages and we'd sell you the battery that worked best for you. And this battery is what stores everything that you get in the day. So if you have a beautiful sunny degree day, 90-degree day, all of that time, it's filling up that battery, right? The amount that you'd have at nighttime would be dependent on what you had available. So if you had a bigger battery, you never ran out at night. Was it more expensive? Yes. But how the loans worked is that the fixed rate, which was not subject to the fluctuations that we see in energy right now, because you'd have one fixed interest rate, would still be cheaper and more consistent than energy costs, especially during 2023. This senator, anti-renewable energy, pro-nuclear, all this crap, didn't even know that. He just thinks it comes nighttime, we're dealing with shit like Cuba, you lose water, you lose everything else. And these are the people legislating against your bodies. And Erica, if you didn't have something else, I was going to play a next clip that goes into that point I just made.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I have a lot, but go ahead.
Got you. So this incredible woman got up on the floor, and I'm still going to get some more information on this while I'm playing this video for you. But I just want you to hear her debates against this individual and what they were doing in regards to AB and how they're trying to restrict it in this state. So let me put this clip up for y'all. And
did you say what? Restrict AB, abortion?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Why did I say AB? I don't know.
So we're still talking about energy.
Oh, I tied into the body thing. Did you have another thing that you wanted to make on energy?
Oh no, I can wait.
Okay.
I'm waiting for our big story.
Got you. So let me play this here.
Have you ever had a transvaginal ultrasound?
You can assume I have not.
I just wanted to make sure. Where was the statistic you cited about 1 in 9 women suffering complications from?
It was a study that I watched in the research watching the House.
So you can't cite the study?
No, I...
Was it published anywhere?
He has it.
Was it peer reviewed?
I would imagine it was.
Great. I would love to see that when you have a chance. What is the medical definition of a miscarriage?
Under the bill.
The medical definition, Senator.
The medical?
Yes, the medical definition. Okay, I'll help you out. Medically, a miscarriage is a missed abortion, an incomplete abortion, which is when someone is miscarrying but it's not yet finished, and an inevitable abortion is when it will happen. What is the required exam as defined in this bill?
A required exam?
The bill requires an exam before someone is allowed to receive mifepristone or misoprostol. What's the
That's weird. It froze. Hold on. I heard the audio, but for some reason it froze.
Required exam. Let me takes the time to take.
I don't know what happened.
I want to quote you correctly. Now we live under the heartbeat bill. We have a requirement that.
I understand that. I'm asking for the definition of the exam under this bill.
I think you have it right in front of you. Why don't you read it?
I don't, actually. I'm asking you to define it, please.
To have it in the bill, it is an in-person consultation.
Okay. And is there any exam that is required?
Not specifically by procedure.
Have you ever had a transvaginal ultrasound?
You can assume I have not.
I just wanted to make sure. I'll help you out with what it is. I've had 2 of them over the course of my reproductive health. During a transvaginal ultrasound, a 5 to 7 inch wand-shaped probe is inserted into the vagina to get a clear view of the pelvic organs. It may cause pressure, patient anxiety, and discomfort, just so you're aware. Do you know the average wait time to see an OBGYN in person right now?
I have heard from subcommittee testimony it can be some time.
Yeah, at least a month, typically longer for Medicaid patients. Some patients report that they have waited up to 7 months, anecdotally.
I did hear testimony to 7 months.
Thank you.
I was watching that.
How far does the average Iowan have to drive for reproductive care?
I don't have a figure for that.
An hour and a half to 2 hours one way. What percentage of Iowans across the political spectrum believe that abortion should be accessible locally?
I don't have a number. It
64%.
has nothing to do with the bill.
How do we rank for OBGYNs per capita?
Per capita, we are low.
Last. What does this bill do to solve our maternal health care crisis?
This bill protects women from unknown substances issued by unknown organizations and sent to them with no medical consultation or medical care post or pre.
Sure. Does it do anything to address the shortage of maternal health care providers in our state?
This bill is not aimed at that.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I'm finished with my questions.
But they want to legislate women's bodies they know nothing about. They know nothing about the female anatomy. Nothing about what women go through. Nothing about the medical procedures. They know nothing about nothing. Anything. Absolutely nothing. This is extremely frustrating. Oh my God, that makes me angry.
Yeah.
What the fuck are we doing?
Friendly reminder, guys. And I'm trying to find the specific thing that they're arguing on. I had it here earlier and then I lost it. But the fetal heartbeat law was signed into Iowa 2024. Let me see what I have here. Yeah, that is 732, House File 732. And that is a cardiac activity ban. So you know how like electricity starts to spike and form when the heart is forming, they will consider that life, and bam, you can't get it. Mind you, many of those pulses are actually via electricity being formed and collected in the body and not an actual heartbeat. But they say once that's determined, that fetus is a person, and if you abort it, you're done. And now they're trying to restrict pills and then some other access, which is exactly what this young lady was debating on. I will also put that video in the Discord chat.
My goodness.
Because it's insane. It's insane.
That is fucking awful.
Too many people trying to legislate things they do not understand.
They don't understand it. And we know they don't care. All right, because you think that if they cared, they would, take some time to actually understand how these things work, what women go through, so on and so forth. Yet they don't. All they know is that they just want women to be incubators and have more babies. That's all that they want. Another thing, babies that they don't want to feed because of $187 billion in cuts to the SNAP program and also stricter requirements to actually receive it. So there's that. Also, what's another thing? Almost $900 billion in cuts to the Medicaid and Medicare programs, specifically Medicaid, all right, to ensure that children can have insurance. And what about those rural hospitals out there? They definitely want them to have more babies. But let's close down about, 350 of those. Let's not track maternal mortality rates, all right? But tell us that you are, but we can't even find the 250 hospitals where you're tracking it at. So there's that part. Just so you can tell us that it doesn't exist, okay? Right? I need you all to understand that. Abortion is healthcare. Abortion prevents women from dying. Okay, we need to know that. They take away funding for programs that can help people get access to doulas and midwives, so that they can have, safe home deliveries. They don't want that.
No, they don't.
All right, they don't want that. They just want people on medication. They want people to have it at a hospital. So something that could probably cost you maybe a few $1,000s if you do it at home, or not even that, or less, is going to end up costing you $14,000, $15,000.
Make it make sense.
They want us in a Hector cycle of poverty. A cycle of poverty. We're in an abusive relationship with our government.
Who does that benefit?
It doesn't even benefit them though.
It doesn't.
Who does it benefit?
It literally
It
doesn't.
benefits no one. Absolutely no one. Whew, all right. I do think that maybe if they did take care of its citizens, like if the United States actually put in effort and care, so funding, because that's how you show the effort and care to your citizens by providing those social programs, that, you know what, people would actually have more babies, right? If a mother knew that she would receive, let's say, 12 weeks of paid time off, all right, not just from her job, but also from the government, she'd be more apt to have a baby, because there's no reason that you should have a baby on Monday and then be going back to work, Sunday. You know what I mean? It's sometimes some women have a baby on Monday and are back to work by Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And that's she hasn't even healed, but she's already back to work. Some women have babies and don't even get any paid time off. Depending on where they work, there's no FMLA, which is the Family Medical Leave Act, which protects your job in the event of a medical emergency. Nope. Don't do it. Don't have it. So they have to go back to work, or else, they don't eat. They can't feed their newborn. It is wild. It's bad out here.
And they'll always focus on the declining moral of the country, or the social norms changing is the reason why people are having less kids or not getting into certain family dynamics. And some of that does play a slight role, not the moral decline part. The part's stupid. But the biggest factor that correlates and causates with year over year people having less children, cost of living. Living.
That shit's expensive.
Even people who want a kid and choose to rock it out on their own as a single parent, they go, nah, that's rough.
That part.
That's just rough.
You look at the cost of living, and you look at how much you have to pay for your rent or your mortgage. Because remember, there was a time where buying a home, it was ideal, because you know what? I own something, in theory, I own this home, and I'm paying less in my mortgage than I would with my rent. Now, fuck that. Now they're on par with each other. If you're paying $2,000 for rent, I guarantee you probably paying $2,400 for a mortgage. This is ridiculous. The average price of a home is still about $450,000 in the United States of America.
That's Biden's fault, though.
That's a lot of money. Yeah. I want to take a quick sidebar, all right, a quick commercial break here. Guys, thank you all so very much for joining us for the 22nd episode of the Fun and Facts Show. I am Erica Shante, and I am joined, of course, by the best host on TikTok and YouTube, all right, and Instagram and everywhere, Hector Talks, all right. Guys, if you'd like to support us, support this stream, support the show, and keep this going, because as independent researchers, journalists, political commentators, producers, editors, directors, all right, and I'm pretty sure there's more production assistants, all right. All right,
really do have
this
all
doesn't
that.
come easy. This does not come easy. So if you'd like to support us, please do check out the links in our bios. We have multiple platforms where you can show support, and everything is appreciated and most definitely accepted. All right, I do want to keep it going, because we do have our big story that we do want to go into in just a moment. But a brief side here is that I necessarily don't want to show him, but I am going to. This just happened today. A streamer by the name of Chud. His real name is Dalton Etherly, whatever the heck his name is. I don't really care. He is some piece of poo that goes around calling Black people the N-word, antagonizing folks with racism so he can get a reaction and get paid for it. He's weird. He's peculiar. Today, he shot a man, supposedly, allegedly shot a man, I should say, in Montgomery out there in Tennessee. It's Clarksville, Tennessee. They said at the Montgomery County Courthouse, he shot a man and he is claiming self-defense is what he's claiming. That's all that we know for right now. The Montgomery County Sheriff's Office did make a statement here. And let me show you what they said. I want to pull that up here. There we go. All right. What they said is this right here. All right. The Montgomery County Sheriff's Office and Clarksville Police Department have responded to a shots fired incident in front of the Montgomery County Courthouse. The scene is secured and there is no danger to the public, but both law enforcement agencies are on the scene. This will be investigated by the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office. No additional information is available for release at this time. Blah, 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 blah. All right. So there you go. Oh, but look at here, guys. So it's no longer him. It's no longer, did he actually shoot a person? So it says, District Attorney General Robert Nash said Etherly was the person who opened fire. Etherly also appeared to shoot himself in the arm during the incident, according to the report. He was taken into custody and removed from the scene by ambulance, and the victim was reportedly going to be flown by life flight. So he shot someone and also shot himself, is what they're saying happened here.
God damn.
You know, I almost had a comment, but I really am trying to be a political commentator for MS Now. So I'm just going to say he did a really bad job of shooting himself. That's all I got for that story. He's a piece of shit. I don't care about that guy.
I've never heard of this person. I don't even know who they are. That's interesting.
I don't know who this person is, but to say King Chud, I don't know what that means. I hope they explain themselves with that comment, or I'm going to have to do the thing. But yeah, that's that one, Hector. Another thing, just in something really quick here, is Attorney General Chris Mays out of Arizona is working her tail off. She's working her tail off, y'all. I kid you not. This lady does not play around. All right. She is not one to play with. She sued, with a few other states, she sued the property management company, Greystar. Greystar is pretty big out here in Arizona. And this, again, is just some local news for you all. And they are gonna have to pay up. So what she sued them for is for junk fees. And these are the hidden fees that they like to put into these contracts, right? And these contracts, you're like your lease agreement. So they'll show like a really like low rental rate, right? They'll tell you $1,400 a month. And then once you get approved for that $1,400 a month to pay your rent, when you go in to sign, they'll give you all of these fees. Like they'll do, oh, this is for valet trash. This is for Wi-Fi. This is for garbage and sewer. This is for water estimated a month. Like all these fees, all of a sudden now that $1,400 a month is now $1,750. It's now $1,800. All right, is how they get you. And so they were sued for this, and they did win. All right, and the great thing about it is specifically there are two apartment complexes out here in Arizona that have been listed in the suit, and that's the Julia Apartments out in Mesa, and also Ivana Gilbert in Gilbert, Arizona. So both on the East Valley. Additionally, if you feel that you were incorrectly charged and you had to have lived there between January 1st of 2023 and January 1st of 2026, all right, you can visit the AG's website to file a claim form. All right. And that's not it, guys. I promise you that's not it. If you are in Arizona, all right. Also, there is some additional money that is available, about $1.5 million. All right. For other people. All right. What's going to happen there is that if you lived at a Gray Star community between 2019 to 2025, all right, you may be eligible also. And what'll happen is because they have to provide a list of names and contact information for all residents who lived at these properties during that time, is that the FTC is going to be reaching out to people. So you may get something by mail or by email, or I don't know if they'll do a phone call, but definitely be on the lookout for that because you could be entitled to some funds. I'm looking forward to it because I remember contacting Gray Star Properties in 2022, and I was like, why the hell are you all charging all of these fees? When I used to live at one of their apartment complexes, right? And there is not a bad apartment. There's not like a slumlord type company or anything. They just sneaky as hell is what they are. And I'm like, I don't like all these fees. This is ridiculous. How do I take this fee off? And I remember contacting them and them never getting back to me. So I'm so happy that they were sued. All right. And I hope everybody gets some money from them and that they go out of business. Fingers crossed. All right. But yeah, that's that one. So check that out. And also you can visit the FTC website for additional information.
6,000%. Still waiting to see if we're great yet. So
we're not.
Two quick stories. One, if you guys recall, the incredibly inept, incompetent, lazy, sleepy Joe Biden went ahead and screwed all of us Americans over in 2022 when he talked to Vladimir Putin and he said, Vladimir, I really want you to go invade Ukraine and fuck with our oil supply and jack up the prices. And then Vladimir was like, of course, anything to make Democrats look bad so I can support Trump in 2024. And that's what he did. So he went ahead and he invaded Ukraine. That fucked with the oil supply and the gas prices reached an all-time high in 2022. And then everyone blamed Joe Biden. And Joe Biden did one of the most decent things he could possibly do after, jacking up the gas prices, of course. And he decided to sell some of our strategic oil reserves. And he did so with the purpose of bringing down the cost of gas. He was even able to buy back some of it for a cheaper price, which is the only good thing to come out of that demonstrably horrible administration. Terrible, terrible administration. I can't believe him. So, remember when Republicans said, hey, that's a god-awful idea? Do you guys remember that? Do you guys remember when they said that he's putting us at risk by selling our oil reserves for his mistakes on making other people invade other countries? Yeah, so U.S. to loan 53.3 million barrels of oil from Strategic Petroleum Reserve. 9 companies, including ExxonMobil, Trafigura, I think that's how you say that, Marathon Petroleum, borrowed only about 58% of the 92.5 million barrels the Department of Energy last month had offered to loan from the SPR. The DOE this spring had already loaned about 80 million barrels as it seeks to release a total of 172 million. If I'm not mistaken, I don't even think we got it back to half, or we got a little bit over half from the last depletion, which in part was also depleted because of the Tax Cuts and Job Act of 2018. Donald Trump literally took some of that to pay for the tax cuts for the rich. The U.S. agreed that a larger amount in March in a pact with more than 30 countries in the International Energy Agency to release about 400 million. The agreement was an attempt to relieve oil and fuel prices pushed higher by Iran's shutting of the Strait of Hormuz, a choke point through which about 20% of the world's oil usually pass each day. Fatih Birol, the IEA's head, has said the war has created the biggest ever energy crisis. If supply disruptions from the war continue, the IEA is ready to release additional oil from strategic reserves. Birol said on May 7th. So far, member countries have released 20% of available reserves. Soaring fuel prices are a risk to President Donald Trump's fellow Republicans who are campaigning to hold thin majorities in the U.S. Congress in the November midterm elections. Let's see. U.S. gas prices hit an average of $4.52 a gallon as of Monday, highest since 2022, according to AAA Motor Club data. So yeah, I believe that's 20 cents. I think we're 20 cents or less than 20 cents away from passing that peak of 2022, but this would be per the month. The DOE is loaning oil from the SPR to companies that will pay in crude with premiums of up to 24%. The department says the system will help stabilize market at no cost to U.S. taxpayers. So shit's not looking sweet. And if I'm not mistaken, but do not quote me on this, I believe I saw a report that showed that that was more than what we sold in 2023. Actually, yes, I know that for a fact. The over 400 million barrel commitment, that's more than what we sold in 2022.
But the question here is going to be, is Trump going to be able to buy it back in order to make the U.S. a profit?
Doubtful.
Yeah, because Biden was able to sell it and he was able to, what did he do? He sold it and then we were able to get it back at a profit to the United States. Okay, so yeah, that's the good thing about it is I don't think Trump's going to be able to do the same thing because the cost is higher. So it'll be at a loss to us then.
Yes. Even more interesting news, they're still blaming Joe Biden.
Oh, God.
They're literally still blaming this man with their full chest. And this was Interior Secretary Burgum. We played the last clip with him, and this is another one that I also have. His entire Senate confirmation hearing was just god-awful, to be honest with you. He's not a smart person in the slightest. But he was asked a very specific question.
Who is this? I'm sorry.
This is Interior Secretary Burgum. I always forget his first name for some reason. Hold on, let me...
There we go. There we go. So I'm going to read it verbatim. He sold it high at a higher price than it made the market drop because it had basically flooded the market. And then he was able to buy it back at a lower price. I don't think Trump is going to be able to do that because now what's happening is that the price for oil is higher because he's not actually flooding the market with it. It's just higher as fuck because of the war in the street. Okay. Trump not smart.
We can just agree on. Would you agree that most Americans are struggling right now to afford basic necessities of life because of rising costs?
Yeah, I would say, again, this administration...
Yes or no? Do you agree they're struggling with these
I agree
costs?
I agree that this administration inherited the highest inflation in 40 years.
Mr. Secretary, do you agree that families are struggling across this country with rising costs? Yes or no?
I agree that during the first year of office, this administration did more to lower costs than any other.
Maybe you wouldn't know, Mr. Secretary, whether they're struggling. I mean, you're in a different economic strata, but I think most of us understand there's a struggle out there because of this administration's economic and energy policies. And while you are slashing just about every other part of the Department of Interior's budget, including for national parks, you have spent a lot of the department's time, resources, and taxpayer dollars to serve Donald Trump's vanity.
I just want to remind everyone that the inflation rate in January of 2025 was 3.0%.
Yep.
That is not the highest in over 40 years.
That part.
He lied to you.
They always lie.
They still can't get off of Biden's nuts. And as a person...
Leave that man alone.
...who is not the biggest fan of Joseph Robinette Biden, the way y'all can't get this man's name out your mouth tells me that he's a goat to some degree. If they can't stop talking about you, it means you did something right.
That's true. My whole thing is that why do they lie and say that they inherited the highest inflation rate? That's what I don't understand. Why do they say that part when inflation when Biden left office in January was at 3%? That's what I need to understand. It was at 3%. Now it's at 3.8%. Right. And I was so weird. They'd be like, well, Trump brung it down. No, he didn't. He increased inflation. Hector, I don't understand how math works anymore. Hey, I don't get it. But there's that, I guess. There's that.
There is that. Also, really quickly, I want to go over this story here. And this will be very short. If you have student loans, you may be screwed. Beginning of this year, there were reports that memos that were put out to where they were going to start garnishing them as early as February. Thankfully, those orders were halted and repayment plans were revised and enacted via the Big Beautiful Bill once it took effect. And you have a little bit more time. They're finalizing some of those rules, but it looks like that took place. And now this is what we have to deal with. Let me put that story back up on the screen for y'all. One of the best compliments that I do have of the Biden-Harris administration is all that they did, not only to give some relief to Americans by freezing some of those loans or not going as far as to going after them when they couldn't pay it, because it was a tough economy, it was hard to get jobs, but they also forgave over 160 something billion dollars worth of student loan debt, which was super helpful and super amazing. They also initiated the investigations into schools that were giving out predatory loans. And then now this current DOE is withholding that relief from millions of Americans. So fun fact, but let me go over this. Wage garnishment on defaulted student loans restarts this fall. The timing will likely reflect the end of the period of time for borrowers to select a new repayment plan. While specific details have not been announced, multiple members of the administration have pointed to getting borrowers back into repayment of their loans. Wage garnishment can take up to 15% of disposable pay automatically, no court order required. About 7.7 million borrowers were already in default at the beginning of the year, and the department projected another 4 million could enter default in the months ahead. ED delayed administrative wage garnishment and the Treasury offset program in early 2026 to roll out new repayment options under the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, including the Repayment Assistance Plan launching July the 1st. The latest announcements are giving borrowers 90 days from when they receive their notice around July the 1st to enroll in a new repayment plan. Once that period of time closes for all borrowers, it's expected that involuntary collections to ramp back up within weeks. Starting and stopping wage garnishment is harder than it sounds. Borrowers working for employers that use large payroll processors like ADP, Gusto, or Paychex generally see garnishment orders applied and released within a single pay cycle once the paperwork moves them through the system. But millions of Americans still work for small employers that handle payroll through a local accounting firm or cut checks by hand. For those workers, a garnishment order can take weeks to start, creating a backlog, and just as long to stop after a borrower rehabilitates or consolidates. The lag means borrowers can keep losing 15% of every paycheck even after their loan is technically out of default. We saw this happen when COVID first paused garnishments. Some employees were reporting delays in getting the garnishment stopped, and getting refunds was also challenging. This part is what I found to be the most interesting. Garnishment is more expensive than repayment. Wage garnishment is a far more expensive way to repay a federal student loan than any active repayment plan. The department can take up to 15% of disposable pay through AWG, while the new repayment assistance plan caps payments at roughly 10% of discretionary income, and IBR caps payments at 10% for new borrowers. That gap alone can mean garnished borrowers pay 50% more per month than they would an income-driven plan without building any forgiveness credit. Garnishment is also rarely the only collection tool in play. The Treasury offset program concedes tax refunds, Social Security benefits, and other federal payments at the same time. And once a loan is in default, collection costs are added on top of the balance, with most of what is taken from a paycheck or tax refund applied to collection fees and accrued interest before principal. The result is what the college investor calls a financial death spiral. The loan balance barely moves no matter how much the government collects, and all that money that's taken from you is effectively washed. All those things is more and more is why the Biden-Harris administration considered the factors and paused those garnished wages and otherwise well after the pandemic ended. Because it's ridiculous to expect people to pay these loans, especially through the methods and means that they're giving you, when they can't find a job and the economy is shit. With the rising numbers that we went over this entire show, and they're literally expected to get worse come July, August, September, October, Americans can't afford to have their paychecks garnished. But that's not going to stop them from doing it anyway.
That part is not. Is not. So here we are. I wanted to talk about something that happened. I believe it was just yesterday or the day before. It was what's today, Wednesday? It happened yesterday or the day before. I can't recall, but it happened. So I do want to talk about, of course, because the main thing that's going on right now in regards to midterms is the redistricting fight that's happening across the country. And we know that in southern states, they are taking every single opportunity that they have at their disposal to basically dilute the black vote. We know what that is. So what has happened here is that there was a case, Alabama v. Milligan. This is a case from, Allen v. Milligan. This is a case from 2003. And what happened basically is that the state of Alabama redrew their maps. And they did this after the 2020 census, and they did it in 2021. The case was decided on in 2023. Civil rights groups did say that the state was using racial gerrymandering and diluting the black vote. And basically what happened is that the Supreme Court ruled at that time, the Supreme Court of the United States of America upheld a lower court's decision that racial gerrymandering did in fact take place and that a remedial map would be needed. And so the Supreme Court, in upholding it, upholding the lower court's decision, sent it back to the lower courts to make a decision. But then Louisiana versus Calais happened. And what Louisiana versus Calais pretty much did was it kind of gutted Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which had this thing which made this thing called the Gingell's test a requirement. The Gingell's test is a 3-pronged test that was put into place in 1986 via a court case, of course. And it basically was kind of how you could determine if race played a part in the outcome of gerrymandering. And the questions that it would have to ask is basically, were the minority groups big enough and geographically concentrated? So basically meaning prong 1 was sufficiently large and compact. And an example of that is if 55% of voters in a proposed district are from a minority group, all right, then the prong is likely met. The second prong would be political cohesion, meaning members of the minority group must tend to vote for the same candidates. All right, so it means that they are politically cohesive. They tend to vote the same. All right. If the group splits its votes widely, the prong fails in establishing the district, right? The next part was the white block voting, all right, which means that the majority must usually vote as a block. That means the same in a way that defeats the minority's preferred candidate. All right. So what that means, just to sum it all up, is that the minority's candidate would usually lose because of majority voting patterns. With the Louisiana versus Calais case, what that did was pretty much get rid of the Gingell's test because it's no longer about outcomes, it's about intent. So what the Supreme Court did on Monday is the Supreme Court of the United States, just so we can be very, very clear about that, is the Supreme Court did this thing where they went against their own prior ruling, all right, and they're allowing the Alabama court, this fucking map, excuse my English, all right, to go through. That's what they're doing. They're allowing this to happen. And fucking A, man. They're allowing it to happen. And what we're seeing is that the state of Alabama is getting rid of basically the remedial map. They're going to be allowed to get rid of a second majority minority district. So this light blue one that we see here, all right, they're going to be able to get rid of that. And as we can see right here with them basically cracking, so splitting up that minority vote there, what they're going to do is they're putting those people into this light red district over here. And it's going to leave them with one blue district. That's what's happening here. All right. So the Supreme Court is showing a clear bias. If I do say so myself, they are showing a clear bias towards the black vote. Fuck it, we got to call it what it is. They're showing a clear bias towards the black vote. There's no reason for this map to actually go through. All right, because it's clear that they are reducing, all right, the Democratic vote within the state of Alabama. is what they're doing. This is going to impact the Congressional Black Caucus. All right, the Congressional Black Caucus is the Congress. All right, Congress members, the House and the Senate, who are Black. All right, and what they do, of course, is advocate for a policy change that impacts the Black community in positive ways. All right, they represent us. That's our representation, right? And the redistricting fight that's happening, especially in the South, can cause them to lose about 13 seats. All right. Georgia isn't participating, which is a good thing. Also, South Carolina has decided to not move forward with theirs. They reported on that yesterday, so they tanked theirs. So it'll be a little less than 13 seats, but it will change the power of the Congressional Black Caucus as the numbers shrink, as our vote is being diluted across the South. So that's what's happening right there. I think it's very, very important that we know this information and how to talk about it. I'm working on it, basically like an explainer, an infographic type thing for this project I'm a part of. But once I have it, I will definitely be placing it in our Discord. Like I'll do it in Hector's and in my Discord, so that way you all will have access to it. But we got to stay informed. We have definitely got to stay informed.
6,000%. And on the note of racial gerrymandering, we need to have a conversation about Tennessee. Tennessee has been wilding the fuck out, and I've spent quite a bit of time looking into it. This was brought to my attention yesterday, specifically that Justin Jones, Justin Pearson, the House Minority Leader, several other Democrats, literally all 24 of them actually, were kicked from their committee and subcommittee roles for the remainder of the year due to their actions and protests to the bill that they put forward at the calling of the special session to gerrymander the fuck out of Tennessee's only majority minority Democratic district, which is roughly, let me make sure I don't get the county right, because I don't think it's Shelby. Don't quote me on it. It's Memphis. It's Memphis.
It is Memphis. It's not Shelby County, though.
Yeah.
It's something else.
Yeah.
I'll look it up for you.
That's why I didn't want to say the county. Yes, it is Memphis. And I'm going to go ahead and go.
It is Shelby. You're right. It's Shelby.
It was Shelby? Okay.
It's Shelby.
Okay, just wanted to be sure. Thank you. So I'm going to go. This is going to take a minute, guys, but it's actually fucking insane. Because one, this is not very different from what they did here in the state of Texas, except we at least took 30 days, thankfully, because the Democrats fled. Unfortunately, it didn't come to much fruition. Black folks, specifically black women, Nicole Collier, was locked into the goddamn Capitol building because she refused to leave with a written slip from DPS, which they choose to follow you everywhere. It did not go that far in Tennessee, but quite frankly, it didn't have to. They were able to do all of this in 3 days. 3 days, they were able to have the special session, not only to change a 1972 law passed in Tennessee to stop midsection gerrymandering. It was on the books, but they called the special session to overrule that, completely trump it, and then pass the legislation. The funny thing about it is that an hour after... Thank you. Appreciate it.
They were out of one of the things, so they put an extra of the egg and some.
That's fine. Yeah.
Or grilled cheese in it.
Thank you. Sorry, I got hungry. An hour after the rule, an hour after the bill already passed, that's when the rule was undone. So they already had this planned, which is the part where it violates the law. Thankfully, the NAACP has already had their lawsuit in the books and the aftermath of it. But I'm going to go over some of these things with you first and foremost. Here is the video, but I first want you guys to see the letter specifically that they were sent. Let me put this up. This is the IEP. Let's do the recent. So this was the letter sent down from the House Majority Leader. His name is Cameron Sexton, and he's a royal sack of crap. Absolute royal sack of crap. He said he was going to do this following the laws, and they were not able to even cite the ones that authorized them to do this. And I hope you guys can read that. Let me put it up here. Oh, okay. Because now I can't read it, actually. Give me a second. I have to pull it up on a separate panel because I can't read that because it's too small for me. Dear Leader Camper, and this was sent to Camper. Once again, she is the House Minority Leader for the Democrats. due to actions taken by members of the Democratic caucus during the second extraordinary session of the 114th General Assembly, aimed at disrupting the democratic and legislative processes and creating a disorder on the House floor, including, but not limited to, interlocking arms in the well of the House. You know, when you all grab arms and sing "We Shall Overcome," that's outlawed. Blocking aisles on the House floor. By blocking, they mean standing around. They're literally alleging that they refuse to let people leave because that's the only block that would count. That did not happen. Instigating and encouraging disruptions of the legislative process in coordination with paid protesters and attendees in the gallery, including the distribution of earplugs to a member of your caucus. So maybe someone was hearing sensitive, right? And they were distributed earplugs. That's against the rules. This allegation of paid protesters is unfounded. The use of prohibited props and noisemakers on the House floor, demonstrating a lack of respect towards fellow members seeking recognition to speak on legislation, and flagrant disregard for the permanent rules of order of the House. Members of the Democratic caucus will receive individual letters removing them from all standing committees and subcommittees of the House, except where membership is required pursuant to Rule 65 of the House rules. One of those props you're going to see in the video that I'm going to show to you. Justin Jones specifically went in there with a horn that he was using to disrupt the service. Again, peaceful, non-violent, but they didn't like that. They didn't like that in the slightest. But let me go ahead and play this clip here for y'all before we get into the nitty gritties of what it took for them to pass this god awful bill. Oh, I got to turn the sound on for you guys over here.
They're taking us backwards to this type of environment where black folks are not treated with equal representation, where we're pre-1965. My grandparents fled the South during Jim Crow to go to Chicago because of the racial terror of things like this, where black folks were not treated as equal citizens in our democracy, where they had crosses burned in their yards, where they had to endure days in jail cells and nights of bomb threats just for trying to vote. And so my reaction is outrage and grief, because my grandma told me stories of what this time was like, and I really believe that they're turning back the clock of history. I walked into this Capitol today. It was 2026. I walked out the Capitol, and it was pre-1965. And they're not going to stop here. They're going to, when we come back in January, I'm sure they're going to re-gerrymander our legislative districts. And I represent the most diverse district. I'm the youngest black lawmaker here in the state of Tennessee. And I know what's going to happen. We're going to lose more voice, and we're going to see the largest loss of black legislators and black representation since the end of Reconstruction. And that's the time they're bringing us back to. And so I burned this Confederate flag because we beat them before, and we're going to beat them again.
So,
yes,
everything he said is correct, but it is going to be an uphill. Oh, hold on. It is going to be an uphill battle. Tennessee is a Republican state. Like I said, they only had 24 House Democrats. It's the state is fucked. And the reason why they're able to cement this supermajority is actually the 2020 redistricting that they did. It cemented in 2022, which at that point, to be fair, it was legal, but it's still one of the reasons why I'm not a fan of gerrymandering as a whole. These individuals were able to go up in there, and let me see if I can pull that up, get my specifics. Because what it used to be was a 7-2. It was a 7-2 majority, with a lot of the Democrats' power residing in Nashville. It was one district. After the mid-census and the redistricting, and they cemented it in 2022, they broke up Nashville into 3 different districts, which then made their supermajority 8-1. And with the end of this, it's going to make it 9-0. Completely diminishing the power of the Democratic votes in the state. But let's keep it $1.50 with you. That is the black vote in the state.
That is. That's the thing. And I wanted to add this on what Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote in her dissenting opinion for the Alabama case. is what she said is that the district court held that Alabama violated the 14th Amendment by intentionally diluting the votes of Black voters in Alabama. All right. And what she's warning there is that the decision by the Supreme Court on Monday ignores the findings of intentional discrimination. The precedent, the guideline that they set on the 29th of April when they decided that Louisiana versus Calais, all right, was in fact racial gerrymandering in Louisiana, creating a second majority minority district, right? They found that. They said that it's about intent over outcome. All right. And they just they contradicted themselves with that because this is a clear display of racial gerrymandering in Alabama and also in Tennessee. Right. So for them to like allow these things to continue to happen, again, it just shows a clear disregard for their own standard, their own rulings. And it also shows a clear bias towards Democrats. That's it.
6,000%.
And they racist as hell.
Racist as a mofo. Damn it. I wish I had it. I'll go back and find it. There's a clip of the governor of Virginia. No, not the governor of Virginia. Somebody from some state, some Republican representative agreeing with a man who was talking about how they need to get their state's laws out of Hakeem Jeffrey's cotton picking hands, and then they agreed with them. I'm going to find that clip. I'm going to find that clip after I'm done with this. I'm going to share it with y'all, or at least post it in the Discord. Y'all will have it for the live today. It was fucking crazy, and I forgot to save it. So I'm going to pull up here. This is the full bill information of the state. And this is going to be the 114th General Assembly. This is HB 701 and then Senate SB 701. And these are the dates here. I'm not sure how much you can read clearly. Let me try and expand it a little bit. But this is what it took. It started on the 4th, ended on the 7th. Senate bill, 5th, 7th. They were able to do this in 3 days. First, they called a special session. And the special session, that purpose, which, to be clear, this was already in there before the special session was called. But they determined the House rules. And this is where they went ahead and made the rules of the hand locking. They made that to be an offense in Congress. Using the horns that they did, they made that to be offense. This is where they decided, which that committee that decides the rules on how it goes is Republican led. So they completely disregarded any of the Democrats' positions on it. For example, they presented a provision that would have required you to present it to the public at least 72 days before it was put out, because they wanted more, it was smart to be fair. They wanted more civil unrest. They wanted the public to be able to comment on this, and they said no. So they pushed the rules through. That was that. And then we were able to get it passed. Once it got out of the special session, we had the ruling from the 1972 law, which I do have here. Crap. What did I do with it? What did I do with it? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, so, excuse me. Sorry, let me scroll back up. I thought I had screenshots of this. This is in the state code. Let me put up the state code for you guys and shrink that here. So this first one, this is Title II Elections 2-3-105. Immediately after any alteration of precinct boundaries or change of district.
At their core.
What the fuck was that?
That was me. Go ahead.
Oh. Immediately after any alteration of precinct boundaries or change of district, the County Election Commission shall publish the changed boundaries in a newspaper of general circulation in the county. The County Election Commission shall mail to each active voter whose polling place is changed a notice of the voter's new polling place and precinct number. Furthermore, immediately after any alteration of precinct boundaries, the County Election Commission shall give written notification of such changes to the Comptroller of the Treasury. This was struck down in the special section. So now they don't have to care. They are not notifying the public. If individual counties choose to reach out to you and spend the money to send you your new information, your new representatives, because this impacted your representative, people who already put hundreds of thousands of dollars into the race for a specific district now are in a completely new district and have to market to that base with new opponents. Fucking insane. Fucking insane. That rule has been struck down. So you now, as a voter, who may not have been the most informed or well aware of exactly how this impacts you, You have to go out of your way to figure out who your new representative are, where your new polling locations are, so on, so forth. You do it. You pay for it. They did put in the special session in the provision that they will allocate a certain fund for individuals who wanted to pull from it so they can go ahead and address the costs. But then none of the counties are required to do so. They can choose to pull from the fund if they have to. So if a county chooses not to, you just have to fuck around and find out. The next code that I wanted to go over, and let me pull that up here. No, this is the bill assembly. Here we go. This is the next code that they struck down to make this happen. And this one, section 216.102, 216.103, goes over a couple here. The citation specifically that they attacked, which is 216.102, the General Assembly shall establish the composition of districts for the election of members of the House of Representatives in Congress after each enumeration and apportionment of representation by the Congress of the United States. The districts may not be changed between apportionments. Remember the specific definition for apportionments. That is in regards to the amount of people per district. That would then be sent up to the states. And then those have to be proportionate due to the Constitution, and that is Title II, the Population Equality Standard. And what that says is if you're going to break up districts, you have to ensure that each district is proportionate to the next one, so no one has votes above the other. That's going to face a ton of legal challenges because so far they've put no effort whatsoever into actually addressing that proportionately, but so be it. The whole goal of that is one man's vote. The principle of one person, one vote. So that's going to face a few challenges there because there's no guarantees that this new breakup is going to match that. But yeah, those are the two titles that were struck down in Tennessee state law to even make this happen. And this was done in a matter of 7 hours on the first day where they called this special session. They then spent the next 2 days addressing this. And this is where we get into the protests. This is where Justin Pearson, I'm sure you guys seen the viral clip or the post, got up in this DPS officer's face and called him boy, which has to be one of the most beautiful moments in Black history as far as I'm fucking concerned.
Excuse me.
Yes.
It's 2:18. My time. I have to go pick up a kid.
You gotta go? Okay.
I've been literally sending you messages. I even went to your live and told you, Negro, look at the time.
I can't see the chat. I wasn't seeing any of that. Okay.
Yeah. So I think this is extremely important. So what I would suggest is the 316 people over here on my end, by all means, please do click on Hector's face and go watch his live so that he can continue to go over this because it's extremely important what's going on over there in Tennessee and across the South in general. I do want to thank you, Miss Carol, for the love. Also, thank you very, very much to Mr. Mike, and there was a few other people. And also thank you, Heather, and thank you, Nina, for the love. I appreciate each and every last one of you. Please click on Hector's face right here, right now. All right, and go live, not go live, but watch live and just go over to Hector's. All right, let's do that so we can see the numbers go down. Okay, all right, because I have to go get the bubs. I do. I really do. Thank you all so very much for joining us here. I apologize, Hector. I was sending messages. I promise I was, friend. I was. I really was. I was sending messages on Discord and on whatchamacallit and in your chat.
Yeah,
like, help me, please help me.
But yeah, you're good. We're going to finish up on the story.
Friend. Here. Okay, guys. I love y'all. I hope y'all have a great day. I'll be back later, and I will see you all. With that being said, deuces out. Go say hi to Hector now. Thank you. Bye.
Hector Raid, y'all. Hector Raid. I'm going to finish up on the story here. Oh, and I do have to readjust it on YouTube, actually. So once you end,
okay,
I'm going to take a quick pause.
You good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Bye-bye.
Welcome in, Raiders. Give me a second. I got to fix the format. I got to fix the format on YouTube because I have it set up for the 2 people, so I have to adjust it. But we're about done here. Let me move this. That should do it. Hold on, YouTube. There we go. Okay, perfect. So now, if I expand you, we are Gucci. We are Gucci. And then we're going to finish up on this story here. And then after that, we will get into the next stream. I'm going to need a couple minutes though. And I need a couple minutes to go. Welcome in, Erica Raiders. Make sure you guys are doing all the things. So the next clip that I have is going to be of Justin Pearson specifically. He was one of the individuals who were more forcibly removed from the building alongside his brother because they alleged that he was forcing them out, and then they end up getting into a physical altercation. I'm going to play that clip here. My apologies, YouTube. I actually forgot to turn on the audio for that. My fault. I'm going to send it to the link over there so you guys can see it. I actually forgot to turn on the audio for that. If you want a little bit more insight into what specifically happened in the building, this was all posted by Justin Jones. And we can go over the photos here. Let me make sure I turn on that audio. Okay, yep, we are Gucci on that department. So this is one of them. I'm going to start over from the beginning, actually. I'm sure many of you have seen this clip. This was not a flag. I want to point this out. Friendly reminder, this is not actually a Confederate flag. This is a pamphlet that he printed out with the image of one on there. So any type of code that they would attempt to use to like say that he was disrespecting this or doing that, which I wouldn't care if he did, would not be accurate because it's just a piece of fucking paper that he lit on fire. So he lit that on fire in the house. And then we play the audio here. Another reason why I wanted to play that is because officers were standing right beside him. They were standing right beside him, and what you're going to see is no reaction. No reaction from them. Thus to show that they were not breaking any rule. There's no reaction from them, from all the officers that were right beside them. So then when you fast forward with the aggression shown to Justin Pearson, it doesn't make any sense. All over him. There's a photo.
These white Republicans is going to remove black voice in the political process. We are not going backwards in history, so I burned the Confederate flag because they want to bring us back to Confederacy. We say absolutely not. We will fight. We're going to fight together to build multiracial democracy. So the hell with what happened today. We're going to rise up across the South. They're trying to take the South backwards in before 1965, we're not going back. They're trying to dismantle black representation. We're sick and tired of it. Sick and tired. So I stood in the spirit of Fannie Lou Hamer, the dying Nash on Lewis, and said that we must get in good trouble and not have business as usual because what's happening in there is a disgrace to all the martyrs of the civil rights movement who were died and killed fighting for voting rights.
What frustrates you most about how all of this went down, how this process went?
It was rushed through without any type of deliberation. We had only a few days and less than 24 hours of vote on a map that's going to take away black representation, and black boys were sick and tired of being sick and tired. And so we must fight. We must come together and fight back. And so the Speaker of the House and now the Grand Wizard in Chief, there was a planned meeting in there. We're sick and tired of it. And so I burned the Confederate flag because we represent a new South that is multi-racial. These white Republicans is going.
That one was a little bit hard to make out because of the background noise, to be honest. But this is also one of the things that they said was disrupting the service using prohibited sound equipment. He got up in there with a horn. His sign says, "We shall overcome," again, in parentheses, "fight against white supremacy."
We're seeing protests in the Tennessee Capitol, where the House just advanced a new congressional map that would carve up Tennessee's only Democratic and black majority district, which includes Memphis. The measure is now in the Senate. We're seeing protests in the Tennessee Capitol, where the
Hey y'all, we just got out of the Capitol Klan rally where they've taken off the white sheets. Today was not about political tit for tat, but it was about racial terror and control. Today, an almost entirely white Republican caucus, after getting a call from Donald Trump, voted to break up the last remaining majority black district, voted to dilute minority voting power, voted to take away the voice of black Tennesseans. I walked into this Capitol today in 2026, and I walked out pre-1965, pre-Voting Rights Act, an act that was bought with days in jail cells and nights of bomb threats, that was bought with the blood of civil rights martyrs. And so they're taking us back in history to a time we don't want to go to. And when I walked out, I burned a Confederate flag because that's the time they want to bring us back to. They think the South will rise again by using racism and white supremacist terror to control black people. But we say that we will only use this moment to inflame us, to embolden our rebellion, and to fight like hell against these white supremacist agendas. Hey y'all, we just got out of the Capitol.
Justin Jones, ladies and gentlemen. Justin Jones. If you are in Tennessee, please make sure you are supporting him alongside every other Democrat that's been fighting against this, because they have one hell of a fight. And then here's this clip. And this was Republicans having worship service on the House floor, specifically captioned as they attack immigrants, block access to health care, and keep folks in poverty wages. I'm not so much worried about his response. I just wanted to show you guys that they were in there praising God. Was that a black singer? I believe it was. I believe it was. So, now let's talk about the fact that this is already passed. No amount of protesting could stop the majority. They're currently litigating it in court. The NAACP has sued the hell out of them. We have yet to see where that lands. But also, friendly reminder, this has spearheaded several other places that they've attempted to gerrymander as well. I want to go over quickly. Louisiana's governor has ordered the state's ongoing congressional election be set aside while state lawmakers redraw maps to eliminate a Democratic majority that is a black majority seat covering Baton Rouge. At Trump's request, Alabama Republicans have approved legislation directing the governor to schedule new primary elections this year under a GOP-friendly map that would end districts represented by black lawmakers if courts lift an injunction on its redistricting. If it happened in Tennessee in 3 days, it's probably going to happen in Alabama. The Mississippi legislature will soon convene in a Confederate-era Capitol building that it hasn't used in 100 years, presumably to eliminate the Democratic majority of the one Mississippi district held by a black representative. South Carolina's Republican majority in the State House voted Wednesday to extend its legislative calendar, allowing time to consider whether they should eliminate the state's sole Democratic majority, black majority district, held by long-serving Representative James Clyburn. And then Florida was already in a special redistricting session when the Supreme Court announced its decision, enacting a congressional map for its 28 districts that packs black and brown voters into 4 districts on the South Florida coast and others. So, friendly reminder that the reason why Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act came into play is to avoid majority-minority districts being impacted to dilute their votes. And the second that it was gutted, they went straight to racism. They went straight to redistricting the fuck out of those districts, targeting them specifically. But hopefully, The NAACP does have one hell of a lawsuit against them, and I think it does bear some fruit. We have yet to see how it turns out, and I'm going to read it as follows. Civil rights organizations folds election rule arguments into push for an injunction. Hearing set for May 21st, 6 days after the new qualifying deadline. The NAACP Tennessee State Conference added a state representative and a U.S. House candidate as plaintiffs yesterday, in a new version of its lawsuit challenging the state's redrawn congressional district map. Governor Bill Lee signed the new map on Thursday, May 7th, carving up Memphis, the state's only blah, 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 blah. The NAACP Tennessee President Gloria Sweetlove filed the initial lawsuit within hours, asking the Davidson County Chancery Court to halt the use of the new map before this year's election. To my knowledge, that hasn't borne any fruit, so they're trying to go through with it. The updated lawsuit adds arguments against another law approved during last week's 3-day special session that rewrites rules for the 2026 election, extending candidate qualifying deadlines and removing requirements that County Election Commission mail notices to voters whose precinct and district boundaries change. So super important that if you're in Tennessee, again, they're not going to mail it to you. You have to go find that out. Please check your local websites. The qualifying deadline for U.S. House district candidates passed in March, but lawmakers' new rules allows candidates to qualify by Friday, May the 15th. So literally someone can pop into the race right now out of nowhere and then contest these newly drawn maps or contest the representatives or the front runners in these newly drawn maps, which is insane. This should have been settled in March. The law will have significant detrimental impact on the work of our state and county election officials, risk voter confusion, and potentially compromises the integrity of Tennessee's elections, according to the lawsuits. And we are less than 90 days away from their general election. Candidate I'm mixing up that wrong. Solidifying their primary. Candidate Devontae Hill, one of the new plaintiffs, had already mounted a campaign for District 9 before redistricting, investing about $100,000 in non-refundable payments for marketing and voter outreach to communities within the former district boundaries, the lawsuit states. Now, Hill is pivoting his campaign to what is now District 5 in the final 100 days prior to the election, and many of the voters he spent money and time reaching are carved out of the district, equating to unrecoverable financial loss. The redrawn map has thrown Hill's campaign into a state of chaos and paralysis as he faces additional, previously unknown opposing candidates and has not yet received updated voter lists, creating a significant competitive disadvantage, according to the lawsuit. Imagine you set up an entire race war district, and because of this map, you have to basically start from scratch. This district may have different policies or different things that they're missing compared to another one. Maybe there's an issue with water. Maybe there's an issue with police, so on and so forth. You now have to completely change your marketing to address this district. And then you're getting a different base of people. Some people who may not support you, like you as much, or know who the hell you are versus your demographic in the previous one. Here's another crazy thing. Hill also no longer lives within the boundaries of the district he seeks to represent, so he cannot cast a ballot for himself, a foundational act of political expression for any candidate, the lawsuit states. An injunction is necessary, according to the plaintiffs, because the tickling clock of an election cycle means that this inquiry compounds daily, creating a disadvantage that cannot be undone after the fact. An election lost due to a paralyzed campaign is an injury that can never be redressed. Governor Bill Lee's proclamation for the special session provides that action is being taken to comply with mandatory election qualifying timelines rather than changing any deadlines that already existed. The lawsuit argues that Lee did not specifically state that the special session's purpose, including the repeal of a long-standing law prohibiting mid-decade redistricting, nor the suspension of residency requirements for the 2026 election. State law requires a special legislative session to be limited to the purpose stated in the governor's proclamation. I will put the rest of this in the Discord. Of course, as I usually do, it will be put forward in the news chat. So if you're not in the Discord, make sure that you do so. That link is in the bio. But yeah, Tennessee has an uphill battle. One thing I will respect about the likes of James Tallarico, which is our current Democratic Senate runner, for the general election in November, is he said he will be introducing a bill the second he gets into the office, banning gerrymandering once and for all. Now, the likelihood of that bill getting far, actually, I take that back. I was going to say no, it may not get very far in the middle of this whole redistricting war, but I actually think it bears fruit because by November, we're really going to see the harm and the impact of what Republicans have done. I think we can even get to see more Republicans, the ones that have stopped it in certain red states, to get on board with it on the individual level in also blue states. So I do think that's going to be pretty good. I think that's going to bear fruit. Hopefully we can actually get it passed. I think once we get a new House Speaker, I'm heavily banking on getting a new House Speaker. That bill actually has a chance in hell to leave the committee. Because as far as I'm concerned, gerrymandering has gone too far. We don't have to worry about it being done racially or anything of that nature if we ban it as a whole outside of at the end of every 10-year census. This is a serious problem. Republicans are playing dirty. Now, the petty part of me does not want to ban gerrymandering just yet. I want blue states to rig these people the fuck out of their states because I think they've already done irreparable harm. So why not respond in kind? But that's not healthy. So as far as I'm concerned, we need a federal gerrymandering ban. I do want to remind you guys that the only party in the last couple of years to introduce the majority of any legislations, with the last one being 2021, to ban, redistricting and partial gerrymandering have been Democrats. Some even went as far as to introduce ranked choice voting in certain states, which is another reason why I say if we want to talk about weakening the Electoral College, if we want to talk about getting ranked choice voting so that we can stop having only two options, the Democratic and the Republican Party, Green parties and independents can rise, we have to get ranked choice voting going. And that's not going to happen under the Electoral College. It never will. It never will. But even though Democrats aren't the biggest fan of it, there are members in the party, and we can see the likes of Zohran Mamdani benefiting from it greatly in New York, who do very much want it on a bigger scale. And there's something else I wanted to read here for you guys. The recent congressional proposals, we can even talk about the ones that would put some limits, or if not straight outright ban mid-decade redistricting, have been HR 4358. In fact, hold on. I want to read all these bills to you guys. Give me a second, actually. I want to show you guys every one of these. Reference legislation. Okay, here we go. From here, I can show you guys all of them, and you can look it up yourself if you so choose. So these are all the ones that have been introduced, and none of them got out of the committee. So 4358 is the Anti-Rigging Act of 2025. This was Mark A. Beasley, a Democrat in Texas. This bill prohibits a state where the congressional districts have been redistricted after a decennial census from carrying out another redistricting until after the next apportionment of representatives following a decennial census, unless a court requires the state to conduct a subsequent redistricting to comply with the Constitution or enforce the Voting Rights Act of 1965. That one never left the committee, unfortunately. We can go back. HR 4652, Fair Representation Act, Democrat in Virginia. This bill requires ranked choice voting, a system in which voters rank candidates in order of preference, in certain federal elections and requires the use of multi-member districts in certain states. It also outlines criteria for congressional redistricting and generally prohibits mid-decade redistricting. There's a lot more to that. That was a Democrat, never left the committee. HR 4798. This one's a Republican, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Make American Elections Great Again Act. There's not much of a summary on this one. Let me see if I can get some text. To modify the timing of each decennial census of population, to count only citizens under any such census, to apportion representatives in Congress among the several states based on census and for other purposes. That one never left the committee. HR 4889. To prohibit states from carrying out more than one congressional redistricting after a decennial census and apportionment. This was a Republican in California. This one's super funny to me because it was a response to Prop 50, which the people actually voted on the state of California. So I don't really give a fuck about this one, but it never left the committee. HR 5426, a Democrat in Tennessee, Steve Cohen. This bill is the John Tanner and Jim Cooper Fairness and Independence in Redistricting Act. This bill establishes requirements regarding congressional redistricting, including that redistricting plans must be developed by an independent redistricting commission. That ends the partisanship. Never left the committee. HR 5449, Redistricting Reform Act of 2025, a Democrat in California, even after Prop 50. And that one, let me go to the text. To require congressional redistricting conducted by a state to be conducted in accordance with a redistricting plan developed and enacted into law by an independent redistricting commission established by the state and for other purposes. Never left the committee. H.R. 5839, restoring electoral stability to enhance trust, or the RESECT Act of 2025, a Democrat in North Carolina, Donald Davis. And in that one, to prohibit states from carrying out congressional redistricting after decennial census and apportionment. That one never left the committee. H.R. 5879, Save American Democracy Act, Vicente Gonzalez once again in Texas. And that one is along the same lines. Prohibit states from carrying out more than one congressional redistricting after decennial census and appointment unless it is strictly mandated, blah, 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 blah. Never left the committee. H.R. 7167. This is a Republican in Michigan, the Make It Count Act. And that one, to require a citizenship question on the decennial census, to require reporting on certain census statistics, to modify apportionment of representatives to be based on United States citizens instead of all persons, to prohibit states from carrying out more than one congressional redistricting after decennial census and apportionment and for other purposes. This one I don't mind just because of the minuscule impact that these people keep saying that undocumented migrants have in creating seats. Friendly reminder, you would not create seats for Democrats because you can literally, they A, not only couldn't vote, but B, whatever district that creates based off the population would have to be won by the individual running in that area. But whatever, I don't mind them not being counted on the census in that regard, even though that is also a big loophole in regards to how they can also scapegoat more funding to education and SNAP. And the Republican in New York, the Fair Map Act, and that is H.R. 7219, to require the congressional districts established by state to meet certain requirements, to prohibit states from carrying out more than one congressional redistricting after decennial census and apportionment, and to exclude aliens without lawful status, blah, 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 blah. That one also never left the committee. And the final one, S2885, Redistricting Reform Act of 2025. This was Alex Padilla in California, and you can probably take a wild guess as to what that is. Required by or redistricting conducted by a state to be conducted in accordance with a redistricting plan developed and enacted into law by an independent redistricting commission. My favorite ones have been the ones requiring independent commissions to oversee the redistricting, because we can't trust either party. Let me be super duper fucking clear. We cannot trust either party to do the right thing. I have no problem with Democrats responding currently to redistricting in red states specifically. But that doesn't mean I want that to be the norm. I think we should all strongly advocate for a federal redistricting ban. And it seems like the majority of people who are doing so are the people who you guys keep saying are manipulated for more seats for themselves, which is contradictory. Final story, and then I got to get up out of here. We actually meant to go over this earlier, but obviously we had a lot to cover. Guys, I still have 6 more stories that I didn't touch today, and we are... We're at the 2-hour and 18-minute mark, but it's super important that we go over this, and there are other ones we'll talk about in downtime for our live. Zohran Mamdani was actually able to, based off the estimates and plans that he's made so far, balance the deficit or the budget for 2027 with his recent policies. And I'm going to put that story up so we can go over it, because you might be asking how. And this actually did a fantastic breakdown. And I want to talk about this specifically because for years we were told that it probably couldn't happen, or what it would take to happen is unnecessary. And Zohran Mamdani was able to do a lot of this by revising some plans, some new investments, and then getting some state aid. But he was only able to do that after presenting her the methodology that he was using to handle this. And let's go over some of it. After inheriting a historic $12 billion budget gap, Mayor restores New York City's fiscal health through aggressive savings, taxing the rich, partnership with Albany, and critical new investments. Mayor balances budget without slashing services, raising property taxes, or draining long-term reserves. That part was extremely contentious because what they were planning to do is raise up your property taxes, if I'm not mistaken, between 9.5 and 9.7%. I supported it because while it's unfortunate, we do have to actually address budgets, and that's going to involve getting more revenue. He now is able to do so without touching that tax, at least so far. 124.7 billion fiscal year 2027 executive budget, putting New York City on firm financial footing while protecting the services working people rely on. Through strong fiscal management, Mayor Mondani balanced the budget through a combination of aggressive savings, new tax revenue, partnership with Albany, and critical new investments in the needs of working class New Yorkers. He was actually able to do a lot of this with specifically Albany. He made a ton of deals with Albany. And then, of course, the governor. The budget is balanced without raising property tax, blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah. I don't care. I need the specifics. As part of the administration's efforts to restore fiscal transparency and public excellency to city government, the mayor ordered every agency to appoint a chief savings officer. Throughout this effort, the administration achieved a $1.770 billion in gap closing savings across fiscal years 2026 and 2027. The mayor identified an additional $1.2 billion in savings by addressing systemic inefficiencies in critical programs, including improving access for special education students, reducing class size compliance, and strengthening city FHEPS. One thing I will comment on that, the class compliance thing, he can only do that temporarily, but in that temporary amount, he's estimating that'll save them a couple hundred million. The city will also create a more predictable debt payment schedule, resulting in $1.64 billion in savings in fiscal year 2027 alone, without impacting retirees, their benefits, or current and future employee benefits. Thanks to Governor Kathy Hochul, Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins, and Assembly Speaker Carl Heastie, the city secured an additional $4 billion in state support and actions to help stabilize the budget. That includes $352 million in direct aid, $3.2 billion in state authorizations, including pension liability structuring, and class size flexibility mentioned above, and $500 million in new revenue through a pied-à-terre tax on second homes valued about $5 million. In addition to the pied-à-terre tax, the mayor will work with Speaker Julie Menin and the city council on the proposal to reduce the UBT tax credit, which overwhelmingly benefits millionaires. Reducing the UBT tax credit will raise an additional $68 million. Rhetoric, numbers specifically. I'm going to post another article that does a better breakdown of exactly all the things that he did, because I want to make something super duper clear, because I don't like false information and false hopes. A lot of this is great. A lot of this has already been done and contributes to those savings and knocking out the deficit. Some of those are investments. I want to make that point super duper clear. Some of those are just investments. So these are estimations based off of if this is passed, if this is negotiated, if this happens. And that's when we get into more murky territory. However, in no way, shape, or form would I use this to negate the accomplishments that Zohran Mamdani has made, because the deals he's made so far that have been passed, he did it. He did that shit. So I have reason to believe that he'll be able to complete the rest. Not to mention he'll find a different way. Even if some things fall through and he goes back to the 9.7% property tax increase, which is a stretch, even if that happens, Zohran Mamdani is actually doing all the things that Democrats in New York City, specifically Cuomo, said that they couldn't do. So absolute fucking W's to Mamdani. Absolute fucking W's to Mamdani. Give me a second. Let me find this article, because I really implore you guys to read it. I don't want to go over it right now because I'm running out of time. But let me find the article specifically, because this breaks it down very well. You'd be surprised to see the agencies that he actually went to and spoke with to make this happen, and the cuts that he made, specifically with the chief financial officers of every department. Why can't we get that on the federal level? Why can't we get a chief financial officer over the DOW? I'm not going to call it the DOD, the Department of War right now. I think that would be extremely helpful. But on that note, I'm going to post this here. If you are in the Discord community, it is available in the news section, and that's a political article. And that's going to break down specifically if you want more. Because initially when we went over the story and I saw the $4 billion coming down from the state, as far as I was concerned, that's just transferring over debt from the city to the state, right? That's initially how I viewed it. But the only way you're able to do that, and Hochul also has people to answer to, is if you have a secure plan that you can use to secure that additional $4 billion, which Zohran Mamdani was clearly able to do. So big fucking W's to Zohran Mamdani. On that note, we are going to wrap it up here. I was intending to... I think I can. I was going to take a moment to eat a little bit, but I think I'll get straight into the debates. I think we'll go straight into the debates. I'm just going to end this live. I'm going to do a quick restart. We're going to get back to the other show, and we'll get into those conversations. Today, we're going to try to speak to non-voters. We're going to try to speak to non-voters, so we're going to be running the topic, everything is political, why aren't you? Guys, give me about 5 minutes or less to get that set up. Hey, what's going on, Facts? Give me about 5 minutes or less to get that set up. But on that note, thank you guys for coming to the Fun and Fact Show. Obviously, my co-hosts have to go because I filled in so many stories. And again, I have a few more here that we didn't get to touch, but big W's to everyone for coming through. I want to tell you guys on your way out, please make sure you hit that follow button, not only to come back for the debates, but to come back next Wednesday after 1:30 p.m. CST, which when we host these shows and we're just going over the news. So ensure that you do that. Those of you on the YouTube side, please hit the like button on your way in or your way out and consider a subscription. The links in the bio, of course, are the best ways to support this platform and everything that we do here, but we will be back in a moment. Thank you guys, everyone, for tuning in. I am the Fact, she is the fun, and she is gone. We will see y'all next Wednesday for the stream, and give me a few minutes to get the other one set up. We'll be having the debates